I posted the comment before I could stop myself. My sister Claire's Instagram photo was still loading on my phone. All of them in matching cream outfits, champagne glasses raised, standing in front of Mancini's char house with string lights glowing behind them. The caption? Family complete. 35 years of love. My thumb moved on autopilot. Congrats, the mortgage is all yours now. I hit post and watched the words appear beneath her perfect picture. Then I turned off my phone and sat in the dark of my Minneapolis apartment, listening to my heartbeat and waiting for the world to explode. It took 4 minutes. When my phone came back on, there were already 18 missed calls from my mother. The photo had been deleted, and I realized, sitting there in the silence, that I'd just ended my family. I also realized I didn't know if I cared. My name is Sophie Bennett, 31 years old, and for the past 3 years I've been paying my parents' mortgage while they pretended I didn't exist. Tonight was supposed to be their 35th wedding anniversary dinner at the nicest restaurant in downtown Minneapolis. I wasn't invited. Limited seating, my mother had said on the phone 2 weeks ago. You understand, don't you, sweetheart? I'd said yes, because that's what I always said. But then I saw the photo. The long table, 15 people maybe, more, cousins I barely knew, my mother's book club friends, my father's golf buddies, everyone except me, and that caption, family complete, complete without me. So I reminded them what was actually complete, the mortgage payments I'd been making since they nearly lost the house 3 years ago. Now my phone won't stop ringing, and I'm about to find out exactly how much honesty costs. Let me back up 6 hours. I told myself I wasn't going to check social media tonight. I had plans, Thai takeout, the new season of a show I'd been saving, maybe a bath with the expensive bath salts my coworker Mira had given me for my birthday that I'd been too practical to use. I was doing fine. I was handling it. Then, at 7:47 p.m., my phone lit up with a notification. Claire tagged you in a comment. My stomach dropped before I even opened it. The photo loaded slowly, my internet always lagged in this apartment, and I watched it appear piece by piece. First, the restaurant logo, then the table, then the faces. Mom in the center, wearing the dress she'd shown me last month. For a special occasion, she'd said. I'd told her it looked beautiful. Dad beside her, his hand on her shoulder, looking proud. Claire on Mom's other side, her husband Kevin next to them, both of them glowing like they'd won something. My Aunt Linda, my Uncle Marcus, cousins I'd sent Christmas cards to who never wrote back. 15 people at a table that was apparently too small for 16. The comment Claire had tagged me in was from my mother. Wish everyone could be here tonight. Heart. I read it 3 times. She hadn't wished it enough to actually invite me. I want to tell you I was angry. Anger would have been cleaner, simpler. What I felt was worse. I felt erased, like I'd been photoshopped out of my own family, like they'd looked at the guest list and decided the math worked better without me. I put down my phone and went to the window. Minneapolis was quiet tonight, the kind of cold November evening where everyone stays inside. I could see my reflection in the glass. 31 years old, still wearing my work clothes, standing alone in a 1-bedroom apartment that smelled like someone else's cooking. I'd been telling myself for 3 years that the distance was temporary, that once my parents got back on their feet financially, once things stabilized, we'd be close again. But the truth was staring at me from that Instagram post. They didn't want me close, they wanted me useful. And the second I stopped being useful, I'd stop existing entirely. My hands were shaking when I picked up my phone again. I should have just closed the app, should have texted Mira, gone for a walk, done literally anything else. Instead, I opened the comment box and typed, "Congrats, the mortgage is all yours now." 8 words. I stared at them for 30 seconds, my finger hovering over the screen. This was nuclear. This was burning bridges. This was admitting out loud that the only reason they tolerated me is because I paid their bills. I pressed post, watched the comment appear, Then I turned off my phone completely and sat in the dark, feeling my pulse in my throat. The thing about consequences is they don't wait for you to be ready. When I turned my phone back on 4 minutes later, the screen exploded with notifications. 18 missed calls from my mother, 7 from Claire, 3 from Dad, which was unprecedented because Dad never called, 14 text messages. I read through them all in order. Mom, call me right now. Claire, what the hell is wrong with you? Mom, how could you embarrass us like this? Claire, I deleted it, but people already saw. Mom, you are being incredibly selfish. Dad, Sophie, we need to talk about this. I read through them all twice, waiting to feel guilty. I didn't. What I felt was something darker, colder, something like relief mixed with rage. Because after 3 years of silence, after 3 years of being the invisible daughter who paid bills and didn't ask questions, I'd finally said something they couldn't ignore. The calls kept coming. I let them ring, watching my mother's name flash on the screen over and over until it stopped. Then Claire tried again. Then Mom. Then a number I didn't recognize, probably my Aunt Linda, recruited to the guilt campaign. I made tea just to have something to do with my hands. The kettle screamed, and I poured hot water over the bag, watching it steep, thinking about the last 3 years. It started in January, 3 years ago. I was 28, living in this same apartment, working as a project coordinator at an urban planning firm. The job was good, not amazing, but stable. $58,000 a year, benefits, a boss who remembered my birthday. Dad called on a Tuesday night. He never called. Sophie, he said, his voice tight, we need to talk about something. Your mother and we're in a bit of a situation. The situation, it turned out, was that they were 3 months behind on the mortgage. Dad's accounting firm had lost 2 major clients. Mom's antique shop, her retirement hobby, was hemorrhaging money. They'd been covering the gap with credit cards, and now the credit cards were maxed out. The bank had sent a final notice. Foreclosure proceedings would begin in 60 days. We need $8,400 to catch up, Dad said, and we can't ask Claire. She and Kevin are saving for the baby. Of course, they couldn't ask Claire. Claire was building a life. Claire was doing everything right. I was just Sophie, still single, still renting, no big plans they needed to protect. I can help, I heard myself say. We'll pay you back, Dad promised, as soon as things turn around. I sent the money the next day. Things didn't turn around. Instead, Dad called again 2 months later. Then Mom called. Then it became a routine. By the end of that first year, I was covering the full mortgage payment every month, $2,100. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself they needed me. I told myself this was what family did. What I didn't tell myself was the truth. I was buying a relationship. Every payment was a transaction. I gave money, they tolerated my existence. But they never said thank you, never acknowledged what I was sacrificing. $25,200 a year, which was nearly half my take-home pay. Instead, Mom would call and complain about Claire's busy schedule. Dad would mention needing new golf clubs. And I would sit in my apartment eating ramen for the 3rd time that week, wondering why helping never felt like enough. Standing in my kitchen now, tea growing cold in my hands, I thought about all those payments. $72,000 over 3 years. $72,000, and they couldn't find room for me at a table? My phone buzzed. Text from Claire. You need to apologize. Mom is devastated. I typed back before I could stop myself. I need to apologize? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Yes, you humiliated them in front of everyone. My jaw clenched. They humiliated me by excluding me from their anniversary party. There wasn't room, Sophie. Stop being dramatic. I saw the photo. There was room. Not for everyone who wanted to come. I stared at that message, something cold settling in my chest. But there was room for Mom's book club friends? The 3 dots took longer this time. You're making this about you when it's their night. You're right. I typed. "It is their night, and it's their mortgage now, too." I blocked her number before she could respond. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about something my coworker Mira had said 6 months ago. We'd been having lunch, and I'd mentioned sending money to my parents again. Mira had looked at me with this expression, not judgment, just clarity. "Sophie," she had said gently, "do they ever ask how you're doing, like actually doing?" I opened my mouth to say yes, of course, but the words didn't come. Because they didn't. Every conversation was about them, their problems, their needs, their stress. When was the last time my mother had asked about my job, my life, whether I was happy? When was the last time my father had called just to talk? When was the last time Claire had treated me like a sister instead of an obligation? Lying in bed at 2 a.m., I finally admitted the truth I'd been avoiding for 3 years. They didn't love me. They loved what I could do for them. And the second I stopped being useful, I'd learn exactly how conditional their love really was. The next morning, I made a decision. I logged into my bank account and stopped the automatic transfer for the mortgage payment. My hands shook as I clicked Cancel Recurring Payment. A pop-up asked if I was sure. I wasn't, but I clicked yes anyway. The first week was quiet. I went to work, came home, didn't answer my phone. My voicemail filled up with messages I didn't listen to. Claire texted from a different number. "You can't ignore us forever." I could try. What surprised me was how calm I felt. I'd expected guilt, anxiety, the usual spiral of self-doubt. Instead, I felt lighter, like I'd been carrying something heavy for so long that I'd forgotten what my shoulders felt like without weight. Then, on day 8, my mother showed up at my apartment. I heard the knock and knew immediately it was her. 3 sharp raps, impatient and authoritative. I opened the door. She looked smaller than I remembered. Older. Her makeup was perfect, but her eyes were tired. "Sophie," she said, not quite meeting my gaze. "We need to talk." I let her in because I didn't know how not to. She sat on my couch, the one I'd bought used off Facebook Marketplace, and looked around my apartment like she was cataloging evidence of my failure to thrive. "The bank called," she said finally. "They said the payment didn't go through." I sat across from her. "I know." "It was a mistake?" "No." Her face did something complicated. "Sophie, we had an agreement." "We never had an agreement, Mom. You had an emergency and I helped. That was 3 years ago." "We're still grateful." "Are you?" The words came out sharper than I intended. "Because I wasn't grateful enough to invite to your anniversary dinner?" She flinched. "That wasn't... There were complications with the seating. There were 15 people there, Mom. You found room for Aunt Linda, for your book club, for people you see once a year, but not for me? You're being unreasonable." "I'm being unreasonable?" I laughed, and it sounded wrong. "I've paid $72,000 toward your mortgage over 3 years. I've skipped vacations, worn the same clothes, eaten garbage food so I could afford to help you, and you couldn't save me a seat at a table." My mother's eyes filled with tears, her most reliable weapon. "We thought you were too busy with work," she said softly. "You're always so distant, Sophie. You never come home, you never call. We didn't think you'd even want to come." The gaslighting was so smooth I almost missed it. "You never invited me to find out." "Well, I'm sorry you felt excluded, but that doesn't give you the right to stop helping us. We're family." There it was, the truth hitting under all the performance. I'm family when you need money. Otherwise, I'm optional. I looked at my mother, this woman who'd raised me, who'd taught me to tie my shoes and read chapter books, and realized I didn't know her at all. Or worse, I knew her perfectly, and I'd been pretending otherwise. "I'm done, Mom." "Done?" "Paying the mortgage, bailing you out, pretending this is normal." Her expression hardened. "So you're just going to abandon us? Let us lose our home?" "You've had 3 years to figure something else out. Sell the house, downsize, get jobs that actually cover your bills. Instead, you just kept taking my money and pretending I didn't exist. That's not fair. What's not fair is using me like an ATM and then excluding me from your family celebration." She stood up, grabbing her purse with shaking hands. "Your father and I gave you everything. We paid for your education, raised you, sacrificed for you, and this is how you repay us?" I wanted to scream, wanted to list every time they'd chosen Claire over me, every dismissal, every casual cruelty. Instead, I said quietly, "You gave me everything except what I actually needed." Which was what? To matter, to be more than a backup plan. My mother's face crumpled, and for a second I saw real pain there. Then it hardened again into anger. "You'll regret this," she said, and walked out. The door closed behind her, and I sat in the silence, wondering if she was right. 2 weeks after I stopped the payments, a letter arrived. It wasn't from my parents. It was from North Star Credit Union, addressed to me at my apartment. Subject: past due notice, mortgage account 47289910. I opened it with confusion turning slowly to ice. The letter stated that I was the primary borrower on a refinancing completed 8 months ago. The loan amount, $280,000. The monthly payment, $2,100. 2 payments were now past due. Total owed, $4,200 plus late fees. I read it 3 times, my hands going numb. I'd never refinanced anything. I'd never signed loan documents. I didn't even live in that house. But there was my name, printed in bold letters. Sophie Ann Bennett, primary borrower. I called the bank with shaking hands. After navigating through an automated system designed to make humans give up, I reached a loan officer named Derek Martinez. "I need information about account 47289910, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Are you the account holder?" "Apparently, I'm the primary borrower, but I never signed any documents." A pause. Keys clicking. "Miss Bennett, I'm showing here that the refinancing was completed online on March 15th using verified electronic signature authorization. I never authorized any. The signature was verified through your existing online banking credentials tied to the joint account. The IP address matched prior logins." My stomach dropped. The joint account. I'd opened it years ago so I could easily transfer the mortgage payments. Dad had access to make withdrawals. I'd thought I could trust him. "Can you send me copies of all the documents?" My voice sounded far away. "Of course. I'm also seeing that the secondary borrowers are Robert and Margaret Bennett. Are they—" "My parents." "I see." Something in his tone shifted. "Miss Bennett, if you believe this refinancing was completed without your knowledge or consent, that's a serious matter. I'd recommend speaking with our fraud department." Fraud. The word hung in the air like smoke. I sat in my apartment that night with printed copies of the refinancing documents spread across my coffee table. Every page showed my digital signature, the same signature I'd used dozens of times to authorize the monthly payments. Someone had used my saved authorization to refinance their entire mortgage under my name. my credit, my liability, my future tied to a house I didn't own. I called Mira because I didn't know what else to do. She arrived 20 minutes later with wine and the kind of practical fury that only a real friend can provide. "They forged your signature," she said, reading through the documents. "Technically, they used my existing authorization. Sophie, they committed fraud. They took out a $280,000 loan in your name without telling you. They probably panicked. They were going to lose the house. So they destroyed your credit instead?" Mira looked at me hard. "Why are you defending them?" I opened my mouth, closed it. Why was I defending them? Because they're my parents. They're criminals who happen to share your DNA. The words hit like a slap, but she wasn't wrong. I thought about all those mortgage payments I'd been making. I'd thought I was helping, being generous, doing the right thing. But I'd actually been covering up a crime I didn't know had been committed against me. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about my mother sitting on my couch, crying about how I was abandoning them. She knew. The whole time she was guilt-tripping me, she knew my name was on a fraudulent loan, and she said nothing. The next morning, I did something I'd never done before. I called in sick to work. Then I drove to a law office downtown that Mira had recommended. The lawyer's name was Patricia Vance. She was 50-something, with gray-streaked hair and the kind of direct gaze that suggested she'd heard every excuse and believed none of them. I showed her the documents. She read in silence, her expression never changing. "This is straightforward mortgage fraud," she said finally. "Your parents used your digital authorization without consent to obtain a refinance. Under Minnesota law, that's both a civil and criminal matter. I don't want them to go to jail. Sophie," she looked at me over her reading glasses, "they put a $280,000 debt in your name. If they default, your credit is destroyed. If they keep missing payments, the bank will come after you for the full amount. Do you have $280,000? No. Then you need to protect yourself. Can't I just remove my name from the loan? Not without their cooperation or a court order, and based on what you've told me, I doubt they'll cooperate." I sat back in the leather chair, feeling the walls close in. What are my options? Patricia laid them out calmly, methodically. File a fraud report with the police, dispute the loan with the bank, potentially press charges, sue for damages. Each option felt like picking a weapon to use against my own family. "What would you do?" I asked quietly. She was quiet for a long moment. "I'd protect myself," she said finally, "because they clearly aren't protecting you." I left her office with a folder full of next steps and a feeling like I might throw up. In my car, I sat gripping the steering wheel, staring at nothing. I could still walk away, pretend I never saw the letter, start making the payments again, keep the peace, let them get away with it. My phone buzzed. Text from Claire. "Mom says you're threatening to sue them? Are you insane?" I stared at that message. I hadn't threatened anything. I'd simply discovered what they'd done. But already I was the villain, the ungrateful daughter, the one tearing the family apart, not the parents who'd committed fraud, me for discovering it. I typed back, "Did you know they put the refinance in my name?" 3 dots. Then, "They had to. The bank wouldn't approve them a loan because of Dad's credit." "So you knew." "I knew they needed help. I didn't think you'd be petty about it." Petty. $280,000 of debt in my name without my knowledge was petty? I deleted the thread and drove home in silence. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table and made a list. Option 1, do nothing. Keep paying the mortgage, accept the debt, maintain family relationships, destroy my financial future. Option 2, file fraud report, protect my credit, force accountability, possibly send parents to jail, lose family permanently. There was no good choice, just different kinds of damage. I thought about my mother's tears, my father's silence, Claire's accusation that I was being petty. I thought about 3 years of payments, 3 years of being invisible, 3 years of telling myself that love meant sacrifice. Then I thought about what Mira had asked me. Do they ever ask how you're doing? The answer was still no. I called Patricia Vance the next morning. I want to file the fraud report. There was a pause, then, are you sure? I wasn't, but I said yes anyway. I'll prepare the paperwork. Once you sign, this becomes official. There's no taking it back. I understand. After I hung up, I sat very still, waiting to feel something. Guilt, regret, doubt. Instead, I felt exhausted, like I'd been fighting a current for years and had finally stopped swimming. The fraud report was filed on a Wednesday. By Friday, my parents knew. My mother called from a number I didn't recognize. I answered without thinking. How could you do this to us? Her voice was ragged, raw. The police came to our house, Sophie. The police. You put a mortgage in my name without telling me. We were desperate. We were going to lose everything. So you decided I should lose everything instead? We thought you'd understand. We thought you'd want to help your family. I helped for 3 years. You repaid me by committing fraud. It's not fraud when it's family. Yes, Mom, it is. She started crying, real crying this time, not performative. They're going to charge us. Our lawyer says we could face criminal charges. Is that what you want? To see your father and me in jail? I closed my eyes. I want you to take responsibility for what you did. We made a mistake. You made a choice, and I'm making mine. Sophie, please. I hung up. My hands were shaking so hard I had to set the phone down. That night, Claire called. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Are you happy now? She said instead of hello. Mom can't stop crying. Dad's having chest pains. You're destroying them. They destroyed themselves. One mistake. One mistake? I laughed, sharp and bitter. They used my identity to commit loan fraud. That's not a mistake, Claire. That's a crime. They were scared. They were going to lose the house. And instead of talking to me, instead of being honest, they decided to ruin my credit and bury me in debt. You could have helped them. I did help them. For 3 fucking years I helped them. I gave them everything I had, and it was never enough. Silence. Then quieter. What do you want us to do? I hadn't expected that question. I stopped. What did I want? An apology? They'd never mean it. Justice? That wouldn't heal anything. My family back? They'd never been mine to begin with. I want you to understand that what they did was wrong, I said finally. I want you to stop acting like I'm the villain for protecting myself. I can't watch you send our parents to jail, Sophie. Then don't watch. She hung up. 3 weeks later, I sat across from my parents in a mediation room at Patricia's law office. This was the last attempt to resolve things without criminal prosecution. The bank had agreed to hold off if we could reach a settlement. My father looked older, gray, defeated. My mother wouldn't look at me at all. Patricia laid out the terms. My name would be removed from the loan. My parents would refinance under their own names or sell the house. I would be compensated for 3 years of payments, $72,000 through a payment plan. My father spoke first. We don't have $72,000. Then you sell the house, Patricia said calmly. That house is our home. We've lived there for 32 years. Then you find another way to compensate my client for the fraud you committed. The word fraud made my mother flinch. We never meant to hurt you, Dad said, finally looking at me. We were desperate, Sophie. The business was failing. Your mother's shop was underwater. We were drowning. We thought if we could just get the refinance, we'd have lower payments, we could breathe again. So you decided to make it my problem. We thought you'd understand. You didn't give me a chance to understand. You just did it. Silence. I'm sorry, my father said quietly. I'm sorry we put you in this position. I'm sorry we didn't ask first. I'm sorry for all of it. It was the first real apology I'd heard. It didn't fix anything, but it landed. My mother still said nothing. Patricia cleared her throat. My client is willing to accept a settlement that removes her from the loan and establishes a payment plan for restitution. If you cannot agree to these terms, we proceed with the criminal complaint. My father nodded slowly. We'll sell the house. My mother made a sound like something breaking. 4 months later, the house sold. I drove past it once on my way to a client meeting across town. The for sale sign was gone. The lawn was perfectly maintained. Someone else's car sat in the driveway. It looked exactly the same, except for being completely different. My parents moved to a smaller rental house in Bloomington. Claire helped them pack. I wasn't invited. From the settlement, I received $58,000. Not the full amount, but enough. I paid off my car, put money into savings, took Mira to dinner at a nice restaurant and let her order the expensive wine. It should have felt like victory. It mostly just felt quiet. I'm sitting in my therapist's office 6 months after everything fell apart. Dr. Lin asks me the same question every week. How do you feel about your decision? I never know how to answer. I don't regret protecting myself, I say finally, but I regret that it came to that. I regret that the only way to make them see me was to hurt them. Do you think they see you now? I think about my mother's silence during mediation, my father's apology that came 6 months too late, Claire's last text, I hope you're happy. I think they see what they lost. I don't know if they see me. And what do you see when you look at what happened? I'm quiet for a long time. I see that I spent 3 years trying to buy love from people who only wanted transactions. I see that I confused sacrifice with connection. And I see that I'm alone now, and I don't know if that's better or just different. Dr. Lin nods slowly. Do you wish you'd handled it differently? Every day. And also never. Can both be true? I think both have to be true. Last week, I got a text from my father. Your mother and I are settled in the new place. It's smaller, but it's ours. We're managing. I hope you're well. I stared at that message for 20 minutes. He didn't ask how I was. He told me he hoped I was well. The difference felt enormous. I wrote back, It's good that you're settled. I'm doing okay. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Can we get coffee sometime, just to talk? I haven't answered yet. I don't know if I will. Claire and I haven't spoken since the settlement. She posts on social media sometimes, pictures of her kids, her garden, her perfect life continuing without me in it. I don't like the posts, don't comment, don't reach out. Some relationships don't survive truth. Maybe ours was only built to survive pretending. Mira asks me sometimes if I'm lonely. Yes, I tell her, but I was lonely before too. At least now I'm lonely without debt. She doesn't laugh. She gets it. Do you think you'll ever reconcile with them? I don't know. Maybe. If they ever actually see what they did. If my mother ever apologizes. If Claire ever admits I wasn't the villain. And if they don't? Then I guess I'll keep building a life that doesn't need their approval to exist. Is that enough? I think about my apartment, my job, my savings account that's finally growing, the therapy sessions where I'm learning that love isn't supposed to hurt. Ask me in a year, I say. My name is Sophie Bennett. 6 months ago, my family excluded me from their anniversary party while I was paying their mortgage. I posted a comment that exposed the truth. Then I discovered they'd committed fraud in my name. I filed a police report, forced them to sell their house, effectively ended my relationship with my parents and sister. People ask me if I regret it. The answer is complicated. I don't regret protecting myself. I don't regret refusing to be invisible anymore. I don't regret demanding accountability. But I regret that it came to this. I regret that my family chose money over honesty. I regret that love in my family always had a price tag. And I regret that when I finally refused to pay it, there was nothing left. Last night, I had coffee with my father. He looked older in the fluorescent lights of the Caribou Coffee near his new house, smaller somehow. We talked about nothing for 20 minutes, the weather, his new neighborhood, my job. Then finally, your mother asks about you. Does she? She does. She just doesn't know how to. She's proud, Sophie. It's hard for her to admit when she's wrong. She committed fraud and blamed me for reporting it. I know, he stirred his coffee. I know we did this, all of it, and I know sorry doesn't fix it. No, it doesn't. But I am sorry for not protecting you, for using you, for letting you mother and Claire treat you like you were less important than you are. I felt my throat tighten. Why didn't you ever stand up for me, Dad? He was quiet for a long time. Because it was easier not to. Because keeping peace felt safer than telling the truth. Because I'm a coward. He looked at me finally. And I'm sorry for that too. It wasn't enough to fix 3 years of payments and 31 years of being invisible, but it was something. I don't know if we can fix this, I said. I know. I don't know if I want to try. I understand. We sat in silence, 2 people who used to be father and daughter, trying to figure out what we were now. Can I call you sometimes? He asked. Not to ask for anything, just to know you're okay. I thought about it. Once a month, I said finally. And if you ever lie to me again, if you ever try to use me again, I'm gone for good. I understand. I left before either of us could cry. My name is Sophie Bennett. I'm 31 years old. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment in Minneapolis that's small but mine. I make $58,000 a year and every penny belongs to me. I have $43,000 in savings that no one can touch. I haven't spoken to my mother or sister in 6 months. I have coffee with my father once a month, and we're learning how to talk like people instead of transactions. Am I happy? I'm not miserable. I'm not drowning. I'm not invisible. I'm lonely sometimes. I'm angry sometimes. I'm sad about what could have been if my family had chosen differently. But I'm free. Free from debt I didn't earn, free from relationships built on obligation, free from measuring my worth in how much I can give to people who never gave back. Last week, someone at work asked if I was close with my family. Not anymore, I said. I'm sorry. Don't be. Some families aren't meant to be close. Some are just meant to teach you what you deserve. And what do you deserve? I thought about that. More than I was getting. Tomorrow, my mother's birthday. Last year, I sent flowers and a card. The year before, I took her to brunch. This year, I'm doing nothing. Claire will post something sentimental. My father will probably call me to hint that I should reach out. I won't. Not out of spite, out of self-preservation. Because I'm learning, slowly, that love shouldn't cost everything you have, and family shouldn't be the price you pay for existing. My name is Sophie Bennett. I chose myself over my family. I still don't know if it was the right choice. I just know it was the only choice I had left. Ask me in a year if it was worth it. Right now, all I know is this. I'm still here, and that's enough. If you stayed until the end, you understand what real revenge looks like. It isn't loud, it isn't rushed, it's patient. This is Revenge with Remy. Subscribe and stay patient.